Hi, I'm Chloe. Today I'm going to be talking about Vanilluxe in PU. Uh, I think by far it is the most broken Pokemon in the tier, and I'd like to talk about that today. It's kind of just going to be a laid back video of me giving my honest thoughts about what I think about Vanilluxe. I haven't scripted this or anything, so hopefully my thoughts are coherent enough that I can get across a point. Um, I'm just gonna have replays playing in the background to try and supplement my points as I go along, and hopefully I can just talk about Vanilluxe, I guess. So the replays will be from SCL and Swiss, so hopefully they're somewhat entertaining as my voice goes off on tangents about the PU meta. Vanilluxe. Why is Vanilluxe a problem? What is it? What does it do? Vanilluxe has kind of been in the tier for quite a while now, and it initially got banned via NU because of their ban on Snow Warning, but over time, they chose to ban Slash Rush instead and reintroduce Snow Warning. So we in turn got the Snow Warning ones back, such as Vanilluxe, Auroras, and Abomasnow. And the latter two aren't too significant. They are cool breakers in the sense that they're strong special ice types with earth power coverage to get through Togedemaru. But otherwise, they're not that significant. But Vanilluxe, however, I think is a pretty special case, and I'll explain why as this video goes along. It's kind of been under the radar for quite a while. I think around the beginning of Swiss is when people started realizing just how good this Pokemon can be. It was initially just always an underrated breaker in my opinion, but it was one that was somewhat difficult to justify over offensive Mesprit or Articuno Galar at the time. And eventually people realized that it kind of had its own thing going for it, and there were reasons to use it above Pokemon like Mesprit and Articuno Galar. I think the main issue there, or the main reason as to why Vanilluxe is uh, more potent than Mesprit or Articuno Galar, is its power level and its strength, and how it's able to muscle through Pokemon like Togedemaru and Aggron with its primary stab, which is stronger than Freezing Glare and stronger than Hurricane against Togedemaru and Aggron, thanks to it not being a dual weakness. But yeah, we'll get onto that. I'll try and slow down a little bit and try and explain my viewpoints because I have a habit of rushing and just not explaining myself properly. So hopefully I can get there as time goes on. Around Swiss time is when people started realizing how good Pokemon like Sneasel and Scyther were in the metagame. And people were starting to opt to run more physically defensive Togedemaru, more Regirock over Gigalith. Those kind of ones were kind of just seeing a lot of use thanks to how potent and how prominent Sneasel and Scyther were. But eventually over time, people were running strong special breakers to take advantage of that, and Vanilluxe was a major culprit of it. So people kind of reverted back to specially defensive Toge, but the issue still remained that Togedemaru can't actually efficiently check Vanilluxe due to its lack of bulk and how it's required to win a 50-50 due to its over-reliance on Wish. So I'll try and explain that. I have calcs set out for that. So Vanilluxe does about 40%, 37%-ish to a Togedemaru, which can, as the Togedemaru comes in on that, it can then choose to wish, and if it does wish, it's going to take either another 37%, which is around 75%, or predict, or the Vanilluxe user will be forced to switch out, and the Togedemaru can take advantage of it. Vanilluxe doesn't lose too much by staying in, but that's not the point here. Once it does 75%, the wish and hail damage will make sure that by the time the wish... So say, okay, the second blizzard goes off, Togedemaru takes the second blizzard, and it's on 25%. It's wished in that turn, so it can spiky shield pretty safely for the following turn. The Vanilluxe user can go into a ground type or a fighting type or something that forces out Togedemaru and leave the Togedemaru on 75% for its next time to switch in. So Togedemaru is then now the same sequence can happen again, but this time Togedemaru is already on 75%. It takes one blizzard. It's down to about 35. It takes down to about 37. It takes another. So Togedemaru actually can't wall it. The best thing Togedemaru can do is predict that the Vanilluxe is going to stay in to take that second blizzard and iron head it. But unfortunately, this is not even a one-hit KO on Vanilluxe. So most of the time, you're just going to be staying in, taking another blizzard, being on 25%. At least you got a little bit of chip on Vanilluxe, but your Togedemaru is on 25% without a wish and essentially useless. And that's kind of the problem with Vanilluxe. It's just way too strong for our current steel types to handle. And essentially, you'll see this kind of backed up with Pokemon like Aggron, which take 40% and have no recovery. So you might think Aggron is a decent, especially defensive steel to use as a Vanilluxe check, but the inability for it to come in more than twice is kind of outlandish, really, because what option does a person using Aggron actually have in this situation? There is not many Pokemon that can efficiently check Vanilluxe, and there is definitely not something in the back that can properly switch into that, other than potentially defensive Wishy-Washy. But defensive Wishy-Washy can be nailed with Freeze Dry. So you're essentially forced to go into Aggron, take 40, then go into Wishy-Washy to ensure that your Wishy-Washy doesn't get impaired for the rest of the game with Freeze Dry. It's just way too strong for our current steel types, and even with Ordiner, it's just the 2-hit KO straight. You don't even have to switch out here, you just click Blizzard twice. Even Leftovers doesn't save you because there's Hail Chip. It's insane. There is nothing you can do to stop it, really, except run Gigalith. And the main issue that I have with Vanilluxe is just that you're forced to run Gigalith or you lose. There is no alternative solution here. You just have to run Gigalith, and it's kind of just not optimal. And as you see in this replay here, if you were paying attention earlier, on turn 1, John Filch tricked the Gigalith with a choice specs. So there's like nothing the Gigalith can do then to efficiently check Vanilluxe as the game goes on. It's not too difficult to impair a Gigalith. I think most people seem to opt for a Toxic Charizard, but there are also other ways to just get Gigalith weakened and for Vanilluxe to sweep. Its speed tier is solid enough that this isn't really an issue, as you're not going to be revenged as easily. Its bulk is sufficient enough that Pokemon like Ribombee can't just come in, because they actually risk doing about half to Vanilluxe with Moonblast and then getting KO'd back. This replay, I just want to elaborate on something. You watch this replay and you see how easily he whittles down Gigalith with his own Vanilluxe. Nida just has all there's like nothing he equally can do. There is no Freeze Dry switch in. You can just constantly click Freeze Dry here until the Gigalith is gone. And
then you're pretty much just free to click freeze dry on everything. Look, 99% freeze dry. It's not even Blizzard. It's just insane damage on everything. I don't know. I try to look for the redeeming features in Pokemon because I really don't like letting stuff go to PUBL. But Vanilluxe just seems way too overpowered for our current defensive answers, and this meta is not remotely orientated towards offense. So most teams are going to be built like this, are going to rely on some sort of defensive steel or Gigalith or Ordino or whatever. And Vanilluxe just overwhelms them all, and it's insane. um, but yeah, it's just incredibly restricted, and I don't. People will often like make the point about how bans, and unnecessary bans, is one less mod we can use. Like if you're uninitiated in the tier and you think that's how competitive metas work, that may be your thought process. But by allowing Vanilluxe in the tier, you're essentially allowing us to use less steel types, less defensive Pokemon to check it, and you're making the metagame a lot more boring by allowing this super overpowered breaker just to go through everything we have. And yeah, I don't think it's a great thing to have in the tier. People talk about Scrafty and Charizard and how they restrict team building, but then you look at a Pokemon like Vanilluxe. How is this? How can you attempt to justify a ban on Charizard or Scrafty in terms of team building restrictiveness when Vanilluxe is existent in the tier? It's insane. It's just stupid. I understand like the arguments for Scrafty and Charizard, but I don't think that should be your primary objective while we still have Vanilluxe in the tier, personally. That's my personal take anyway. You feel free to disagree. Um, but yeah, I think if we get rid of Vanilluxe, at least the metagame will free up a little bit more. It'll allow us to use more defensive steals. It'll allow us to use Togedemaru again. It'll allow us to use Aggron. Togedemaru still does get a little it kind of doesn't have a great matchup against the Blade, which is sort of very prevalent right now. But I think still you can actually justify it if you're not sacrificing sacrificing the match to a certain matchup. If you run it, it's just I don't know. Vanilluxe is insanely broken. There is I could try and make other points towards this, but I think this is my main issue with it. It's just it restricts team building immensely, and to the one Pokemon that we actually have that can efficiently check it, it can whittle that down too. It's just not a Pokemon that we want to have in the metagame. On the Scrafty and Charizard point that I brought up a little bit ago, at least those have redeeming features defensively. Whereas with Vanilluxe, it's just another breaker. It's not going to be the end of the world if we get rid of it. Whereas with Scrafty or Charizard, removing one of the two opens up a whole bag of worms, and I think overall we have like enough counterplay for Charizard. We have so many rock types, we have so many Spadef waters that can just like take it on. With Scrafty, we have a decent collection of fairy types and Quagsire and neutralizing gas wheezing. We have like options for that one, whereas something like something with like Vanilluxe, we have like we can just we don't have like defensive options for that. We have other breakers that can fulfill similar roles without being too problematic. I cannot wait until we can play a meta game without Vanilluxe. Because at the moment, it is essentially just run Gigalith or lose to Vanilluxe. You have no other option, really. What else did I really want to talk about here? So the main set that people run is the Specs Vanilluxe set, which I think is definitely the most potent. But there's also there are also Taunt heavy-duty boot sets, which allow Vanilluxe to gain entry easily and more easily. I think these sets are pretty cool, and I think they allow you to get through some defensive structures that would otherwise be mitigated through the use of protect. But I think for the most part, the specs one is the main culprit. But especially like a strong special breaker with taunt is just so astoundingly potent. And if the spec set didn't exist, I believe the taunt set would also be broken enough on its own. But that being said, it does do a lot less to a Tog and Agron and Gigalith and whatever. But the spec set is the main culprit, is basically what I'm trying to say. So I think I kind of brought up this to like a little degree or a small degree here, but Mesprit and Articuno Galar are like other special breakers you can kind of attempt to use instead of Vanilluxe. But and they can kind of accomplish similar things against Togedemaru and Agron. However, they're substantially weaker in terms of offenses. I think I did bring this up, but I have no clue, so I'll reiterate myself. I kind of lost my thought process, but yeah. So Mesprit and Articuno Galar, they're substantially weaker. Their primary stab psychic is easily abusable if they opt for choice set. So you can run like your steel type plus Grafty even, and you can gain an advantage off that. Their strongest, Articuno Galar's strongest stab is a 4 times resist for Togedemaru and Agron, so it commonly doesn't get those opportunities as much. Even something like Mesprit is just very substantially weaker than something like Vanilluxe. And you can actually check it with steel types, unlike having to rely on Gigalith, which is just nice. Vanilluxe is just so much better at breaking through our steel types and getting through the meta. There are other options you can run instead of Gigalith, but they're mostly off-meta picks. You can run like Miltank, which it's an okay mon, but it's very hard to justify over just running competent, just running like Gigalith or a steel type if that could work. But yeah, it's stupid that you're forced to run Pokemon like Miltank to deal with Vanilluxe. Like of course you can run Gigalith on every team and assume that's just the meta and like go along with that. But I kind of like a little bit of freedom in my team building personally. I don't want to be forced to run Gigalith on every team, and personally I don't think it reflects very well in the meta game if we're forced to run Gigalith on every team. I also explained that it's not really that great a check of Vanilluxe and how easily it's overwhelmed as she's thrown that earlier game. But yeah, Vanilluxe is just it's stupid. It's just dumb. I try to look for the redeeming features, and I tried to like convince myself that maybe it's okay. It's not bad for the metagame, but I think over time it's definitely proven that it's just stupid. It's hilariously stupid. A point of contention with it might be that it's kind of difficult to get in because ice it's an appalling defensive type in, but the amount of things you can just force in with like a rock type and then bring in Vanilluxe. So for example, say you're forced into your mandatory Gigalith and your Vanilluxe, you can bring in your Gigalith, force in the ground type, and go into Vanilluxe on that turn pretty freely. Or the opponent risks taking substantial damage with Gigalith, which they probably don't want to do at certain points in the game. So you can use that to get Vanilluxe in, but also there's just a current influx of slow pivots that you can allow, that you can use to get Vanilluxe in pretty freely. So like Split F Wish, or just defensive Wishy Washy in general. You could in previous metas run defensive Togedemaru, but at the moment you can't. uh, yeah, you have like a lot of options as to just like slow things that can bring in Vanilluxe at the moment and bring in strong breakers, and I don't really think that that's very healthy. Vanilluxe doesn't have many issues getting in. I mean, it's its main issue, I would say, but there are so many opportunities. Not only that, but is this the match that I'm thinking of? Yeah, so this match, Lax opted for eject button Eldegoss, and that's like not a normal set by any means, but it works because he can bring it in and get the Vanilluxe in again and just kill something else, and it's not great for the meta at all. It's not nice at all. Yeah, I looking through PUPL at the moment, I think but there's something I should probably elaborate on. This match is almost over. Okay. So as PUPL is going on, people have like sort of started to realize how significant Vanilluxe's impact is, and so in the initial stages of the tournament, people weren't really running Gigalith as much. As you can see there, it's a 25% usage rate, and that's like pretty standard for Gigalith. It's not something you commonly see. Look at that Vanilluxe, 40% win rate, 5 uses. It's like not astoundingly good, but it's starting to see a fair bit of usage. And as the tour goes on, people started to realize, wait, this one's like legit. And Gigalith kind of just incrementally got used more as time goes on. 34% in week 2. That's still not that much. There are like 5 mons above it, so it's not like the end of the world. But as time goes on, 46% usage for Gigalith. It's number 1 now, which I think in turn contributed to Vanilluxe's potency in that week. But at the same time, it's Gigalith is just being used way too much. It's been forced to. You can't not run it. Like, there's a common core that people are running at the moment with Gigalith, Sandslash, and Deblade. And while I think that's really potent, I think it's also easily abused with water types. I feel like once people start running Jelly and other water type breakers more, they're going to realize that core is going to die off a little bit. But at the moment, it's pretty much so potent just because it effectively deals with Vanilluxe and not many other. Sorry. Oh god, I'm so bad at talking. But yeah, so it deals with Vanilluxe and it also deals with most other things that would deal with it. But yeah, no, water types will start seeing more usage, I think, as time goes on. But at the moment, you can just afford to run Gigalith and whatever pretty freely. I think as time goes on, yeah. We have too many breakers in this metagame, I think, to an extent. I think with Guzzlord gone, it does mitigate that a little bit. But yeah, I think once Vanilluxe goes, I think I'm pretty much happy. Like, we have enough counterplay for everything else in the metagame, I think. But Vanilluxe is just, it sticks out like a sore thumb. There is, yeah. And even the following week, it didn't stay number 1, but another 37.5% usage. And it's, yeah, where's Togedemaru on this list? 2 uses for Togedemaru. That's unthinkable a few months ago. He's got 100% win rate. That's pretty cool, though. Togedemaru. 4 uses Togedemaru. It's just insane. It's insane. I'm sorry, I think I didn't crop that properly, but you can pretty much see what I'm doing. Togedemaru. Yeah, 5 uses, 20% win rate. It's insane. The Gigalith is just... You have to use Gigalith right now. It's stupid. I've pretty much gotten my point across, but... what else can I really think of? This is me attempting to use an Aggron as a Vanilluxe check. As you can see, it's not amazing. Aggron's easily whittled down, especially because the Whimsicott, and Whimsicott generally doesn't have that many knock switch-ins that aren't steel type, so I'm pretty much forced to go to my steel type. And as time goes on, the game proceeds, and he gets in Scyther and Vanilluxe, and over time I'm just gonna keep on taking chip damage. Yeah, it's... I don't know. I definitely look forward to a metagame without Vanilluxe, and I hope we can accomplish that. But yeah, so there's no official decision or anything, like in terms of council matters or whatever, but I would like to have a suspect test on Vanilluxe. And hopefully this is a convincing argument enough. I don't think I'm really that great at like putting across my points while I'm not typing them out, so hopefully I explained myself thoroughly enough. Yeah. I'll kind of speed this up a little bit, but as you see as the game goes on, U-turn, Whimsicott, I'm forced to go into aggro, and Scyther can pretty much come in. I think that was if only I clicked head smash there, that would have been a great play, but too risky. Yeah, as the game goes on, Aggron just gets whittled down and whittled down. There's not much you can do there. He doesn't even have to switch in Vanilluxe for the most part, but the point is Vanilluxe 2-hit KOs from this range, and it does at this point, I think. Yeah. That's so much damage for a special type break. That's 50% damage to a steel type with Blizzard. That's stupid. That's dumb. I'm not even, like, this is not me being salty or anything. He played better than me. But, like, come on. So I pivot on the aggron, I go into wishy-washy and take 40. Like, that's stupid. It's so strong. It's so dumb. Yeah. I think I've pretty much gotten across my point, so hopefully this is not just unintelligible rambling, and you can kind of make out what I'm trying to say. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully I have convinced you that Vanilluxe is stupid and shouldn't be in the tier. Yep, thank you for watching, and goodbye.